Hey crochet friends, welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. Happy September. We are in a new month and it's the first Wednesday. You know what that means? We work on our themed project. So this year we are working on Home Sweet Home. So all of our themed projects, the first Wednesday of every month, is related to that theme. And if you're new here, I'm Karen and I love taking you guys through all things to do with crochet and crafting with crochet. So we are going to create these really sweet, cute little nesting baskets. Now, the funny thing is these two nest together. This one sits a little bit loosely in there. Now, I did that because I was experimenting on different sizes. So the project we're working on is these rope baskets. I'm not sure if you can see there, but there is a macrame cording kind of trapped in the stitches. And you'll probably have seen a lot of these types of baskets if you've gone to HomeSense or Home Goods or TJ Maxx, things like that. So this tutorial is going to show you how you can make your own. So there you go. And you can customize it to any size you like. So I start off with this smaller one. I was experimenting here. And this one I think sits about, I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 inches tall. And it's really great for, you know, maybe throwing your keys in there, something like that. And then this one is a little bit larger. Maybe you've got some extra crochet or sewing supplies you want to throw in here. And then you've got this nice large one that you can maybe throw in a current whip or two. And the other thing I love about these baskets is they're really soft and they don't really take up much room. So I think you're really going to enjoy working on this. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so let's talk about the yarn we're going to use for this project. Now, this is Bernat's Forever Fleece yarn, and I love it. It's thick, it's chunky, it's hard to explain the consistency. It's 100% polyester. It's not that it's not soft. It's definitely soft and cushy, but it's got some kind of girth to it, I guess we'll call it. So it's a really great yarn for doing big chunky blankets. And I actually, especially as soon as I picked this up, I thought, oh, this is going to be great for making baskets. Now, I think with this yarn, you could even get away with making the basket without the rope kind of integrated in it. But I find that if you want your baskets to have a little bit of structure, adding the rope really makes it all come together. Now, I have seen a couple of YouTube crocheters apply, what is it called? Starch, fabric starch to their baskets to give it a little bit of structure. You can certainly do that too. I like the idea of the rope. I just think it's just a bit more sound and a little stronger. Now, this, I believe, yarn came out sometime last year. You can still find it. I originally found this at Walmart. I think they were, for a time, I think, they were exclusively available at Walmart. If you're Canadian and you frequent Lens Mills, I was just there a couple weeks ago, and they do carry it on the regular with a lot of different colors. So it is considered a super bulky 6 size yarn, and the hook size they're recommending is a 9mm hook. Now, I actually happen to have a 9mm hook. I had bought this a million years ago. I think I was a teen when I had this hook. So it is known as a size N, and it doesn't have a number affiliated with it. I don't think you guys can see that. I'll pull a graphic up on the screen. If you don't have a 9, because the 9s are not as common a size, don't worry. You could get away with using an 8 or even going up to a size 10. So the 8 and the 10mm are pretty common sizes. I think you're going to be just fine. So that's the hook and that's the yarn. Of course, you want to make sure that you've got some cording on hand. Now, I got this at Michael's. This is just, I think it's the macrame cording. It is 0.15 inches in diameter or 4 millimeters. This came in a spool of 50 yards, which is 45.7 meters. You're not going to need it all. I happen to bought a brand new spool because those of you that saw my last rope rug project, you know that unfortunately I did end up running out. I was hoping I was going to be able to use the whole spool, but in any case, it worked out and now I can use it for this project. It is considered a 32 ply for those of you that are into macrame and you know what that means. I, on the other hand, do not. I just liked the fact that it wasn't too thick and it wasn't too thin. So if you can find a smaller spool for our basket, I think you would be just fine. And if you're going to do a series of sets like nesting baskets, like I said, for gifts, then this will definitely come in handy. So we've got that. And as always, make sure that you have a pair of scissors on hand to snip your yarn, and make sure you have a yarn needle to weave in your ends. Now, a yarn needle has a larger eye. And in fact, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this out because for this yarn, this eye, I think you're still going to have to force it through. So I'm going to show you the alternative that I have for an extra bulky yarn. Here we go. So this eye, as you can see, is actually a wire loop, and it's much easier to get a very bulky yarn like this through this eye. See that? Nice and easy. So you can find these in any craft shop. I got mine at Walmart. It came in a pack of 2. So these will come in handy if you like to work with a lot of bulky yarn, especially. And then I would recommend having a stitch marker on hand. By the way, I do not recommend these. I think I found these at Michael's years ago. They just really kind of don't catch very well. I used forever and a day just a regular old safety pin. Even some people use bobby pins. So whatever you've got lying around to just give you the opportunity to mark your spot is all you're going to need. And when you've got all your materials together, we're ready to get started on our basket. Okay, so the bottom of our basket is circular in nature, so we are going to start with a magic ring. So that is very similar to a slip knot. You're just going to wrap the yarn around 2 fingers. I always like to have the short tail facing me, and you crisscross the long yarn over the short side, and then you've got a little loop like that. Then you're going to insert your hook and pull up a loop. Notice I'm still securing where the yarn crisscrosses. So I've got a loop here, it's a little wonky, and then you want to try your best if you can do a chain 1, just like that. Now your circle is secure. And so I'll just take that little tail out, so it's sitting on the outside, and there is your cinch circle. Now some people like to use a chain 4, chain 5 ring. You could use that, but I feel like in this project, because we're using a rope as well, you want to try and use a method that will kind of cinch in that center as much as possible. So if you see the bottom of my basket here, you can see it's pretty tightly cinched. And I feel it's because the cinch circle really keeps it in nice and tight. So once you've got your cinch circle, okay, this is where you're going to take your cording, and you're just going to kind of hold it in your non-dominant hand here. Just kind of hold it up against the cinch circle. And we are going to work single crochets into the cinch circle, and we want to trap our cording at the same time. So let me just move that over there. Okay. So I'm just basically holding the cord against the circle like this. And I'm going to just reach into the ring and then pick up a loop. And see how this loop is going to trap that in? That's exactly what we want. And then I pull up a loop, and then I yarn over and pull through like a regular single crochet. Now at the beginning, I'm just leaving a bit of a tail here. Some people might even tie a knot at the end. I did not. Let me just double check. Yeah, I did not tie a knot. I just snipped off the yarn at the very end of the project. So once you get the project going, I mean, it's so coiled around that this will not escape. And I'll show you that at the very end. So I just like to leave a little bit hanging out there. And now I'm going to proceed to single crochet 5 more times. So I'm going to put 6 single crochets into this ring. So I'm trapping the cord, and I'm also making sure that this short tail also gets trapped in, because that's the tail we're going to pull on to then cinch the center of our circle shut. So I've got 3 here. Okay, I've got 4. Oops. There's 5, and then I'm going to do 1 more, and there is 6. Okay, so I've got 6 single crochets. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tail and I'm going to pull on it. See how it's closing that shut? And I pull nice and tight, and you'll feel kind of a little bit of a give, and that's okay. So now you can see that these stitches are coming around into a full circle. So now what we're going to do is make sure to count if you're unsure. So I always start from my loop and count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of slip stitching, we are going to work in the spiral round. So that means we're not going to slip stitch at the end of every round. So this is technically round 1 is complete. I'm going to go into round number 2, and in that very first stitch, I'm going to insert my hook, which it's going to need a little bit of help, I think. It's kind of tight. Okay, just like that. Sometimes I just use a yarn needle to kind of loosen it up a little bit. And I'll help it along there. Usually that first stitch is a little tight. There we go. So, and remember, you're going to keep trapping your cording, and then I'm going to single crochet. And this part will be a little awkward. There we go. Okay. And then yarn over and pull through. Okay. Now, what we should do right now is mark that this is the very first stitch of row number 2. Because once you work in the spiral round, sometimes it's harder to identify. So this is the first stitch of round number 2. And in round number 2, we're going to begin increasing. Okay, so this is the bottom of our basket. So in round number 2, we're going to place 2 stitches in every stitch around. So I've placed 1. I'm going to go back in there, and I'm going to place a second one. There we go. Okay, so I've got 2 stitches into the same one. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of the round, 2 stitches into every stitch. So in round number 1, we had 6 stitches, and in round number 2, we will end up having 12 stitches. And this is my last stitch here of round number 2. So there's 1, and there is 2. So I continue to trap my cording in there. Now you can already see. So that's the bottom of the basket. See? And now that tail is trapped in there. And it's not going anywhere. See, after already 2 rounds, it's not going anywhere. Okay, so we are going to go on to round number 3. So you can see that's where our marker is. That's always the first stitch of the new round is going to be there. So this was the first stitch of the previous round, so we're just going to take that out. So round number 3, we are going to increase into every other stitch. So let's start off by just placing 1 single crochet. And then I'll replace it immediately so I don't forget. And now the next stitch is going to be 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then 2 into the same stitch. Okay, so then I'm going to do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. At the end of round number 3, you should have 18 stitches. Okay, so I'm at the end of row number 3, or round number 3, I should say. Isn't this such a pretty color? By the way, in case you're wondering, it's called cornflower. So if you want to replicate this color. And this was, I think, like a heather gray. I do have the labels. I'll put them in the description box down below if you're wondering. I bought 3 colors. I bought the gray, the pink, and the blue as well. So these are super, super cute. Okay, I digress. Let's go on to round number 4. Now, if you're familiar with the principles of crocheting a circle, you know, one of the biggest challenges is eventually when the circle gets to a certain diameter, sometimes there are little points in sections. You can kind of see it starting to happen there. What I do to negate that, to smooth that out, and the reason why that happens is that the increases tend to be put in the same spot all the time with every round. So I always alternate every round where I begin with my increases. So in the last round, in round number 3, I did not start with an increase. I just started with a single stitch, and then I increased. So for the pattern of this next round, so round number 4, we are now going to do 2 stitches and then an increase. So it's basically going to go 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So I'm going to begin this round with the increase. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. And this alternates where the increases sit, which will give you always a relatively smooth curve, okay? And if that information is way too much for your brain, if you're a newer crocheter, do not even worry about it. Just follow along the instructions that I'm giving you and you're going to be a-okay. So we can see here we're beginning round number 4, first stitch. So as I mentioned, I'm going to start this next round with an increase. So that means I'm going to place 2 single crochets right away into that same stitch. And don't forget, replace your stitch marker into the first stitch. Now there's 2 stitches here, so it's not this one, it's this one right here. Okay, so now I'm going to do 2 individual stitches. So 1 single crochet there. And once you get in the groove, it's actually quite easy to trap that cord in there. And then I go into the next one here. And the other thing I love about this yarn is it glides across the hook pretty easily. It's just, although this is a bad spot to talk about that because it's getting trapped in there, but it's pretty smooth. So it's not hard on the hands to work with. So I've just done 2 individuals and then I'm going to start with an increase again, which is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So for round number 4 is 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, etc., all the way around. At the end of round number 4, you should end up with 24 stitches. Okay, so I've finished round number 4, and so my work is looking like this, and that is the inside there. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could snip your yarn nice and close. Sometimes I will just kind of use a little lighter to kind of cauterize the end there, but totally up to you. Actually, I think that's just what I'm going to do, just to get it out of the way. I just snip it really close there. There we go. And this is going to be the inside of your basket, so it's not even going to get seen. And if you decide to make a liner for your basket as well, then that's even less of an issue. Okay, so round number 4 is complete. We're going to go on to round number 5. And so remember, round number 4, we started with the increase. And so for round number 5, I'm going to start with an individual single crochet and then work my increase in as I go along. So in round 4, we were doing 2, 1, 1. In round number 5, we're going to do 3 and an increase. So we go 1, 2, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. So the increase is going to be in every fourth stitch. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out here, and I'm going to start with those 3 individual stitches first. So I have 1, and right away, place that stitch marker back. Okay. And then I have 2, and then I have 3. Okay, and now I'm going to do my increase, and there is 2. Okay, so if you are familiar with the principles of crocheting a circle, this should come really natural to you for subsequent rounds. If you want a little bit more in-depth on how to create any circle, I do have a really in-depth tutorial all about crocheting a circle, and I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below, especially if you're a little newer. If you're experienced, you can go right ahead and skip ahead here. In the smaller basket, I did 6 rounds. I think in this basket, I'm going to go up to round number 8, and that way they can nest into each other. So if you want to do a set of 3, you can do the larger one maybe with 10 rounds before you stop increasing. If you are super new and need a little bit more kind of guidance and you want me to hold your hand a little bit longer, stick around with me. I will get you started with every round we're doing just so you can kind of get familiar with it. So round number 5, we are doing 1, 2, 3, and 2, right? And we're going to do that all the way around. And then I'm going to meet up with you for round number 6. Okay, so round number 5 is complete, and you should have 30 stitches. Now you might notice that it's kind of bubbling a little bit. And this happened similarly to me this year when I was doing the oval shape rope rug. And it's funny because this hasn't happened in other rope projects. And what I deduced from the rope rug, I did the oval shape. What I believe is there wasn't enough increase spots. Now I'm doing a perfect circle, which should work, but I think, and it's funny because this one did do it, but it's completely smoothed out. So it does kind of work itself out. I think perhaps instead of 6, some people might have done 8 for their first circle, and that would have given us a few more points of increases to make it a little flatter. So you might want to experiment with that. So you can see in every round, we're increasing our stitch count by 6 because that was our initial circle. If you decide to go the route of starting with 8, then each round will increase by 8 stitches. So I've got 6. I've done 5 rounds. 6 times 5 is 30. So we're going to go into round number 6, and that's going to give us 36 stitches. So for now, if you're following along exactly with me, see how it's kind of doing that? Do not worry about it. It does kind of work itself out, and don't be afraid at this point to just give it a little stretch. You might even want to do a little bit of steam blocking or hand blocking before we start kind of working up the sides. But this is a very minor problem. It's a very kind of adaptable project. So I think we're going to be A-okay. So we're going to go to round number 6. And as I said, for this basket, I'm going to go up to 8 rounds. Okay. So for round number 6, I am going to begin with an increase. So I'm just going to take that out, and right there, I'm going to place 2 single crochets, and I'm going to replace this on the first one here. And then our repeat is to do 4 individual stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I place 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I place 2. That is the repeat for round number 6. And I'm just going to talk you through round number 7 and round number 8. So for round number 7, you would do 5 individual stitches. So you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then do your increase, which is 2 stitches. And then lastly, for round number 8, you're going to start with your increase, and then you're going to place 6 stitches after that. So you would have 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you would place 2, and then repeat it from there. So I'm going to leave you here. Hopefully that made sense. I'll also kind of write it here on the side. So round number 6 is what we're starting. I've given you the instructions for round 7 and round 8. And once you've completed those rounds, I'm going to meet back up with you and we will work up our sides. And you might find it useful, just press pause, and that way you can refer to the text graphics here to kind of talk you through round 7 and 8 if you need. Okay, I have completed 8 rounds, and so my bottom is looking like this. And you might want to take this opportunity now to kind of weave in this end here, because once you start working up your sides, you can do it. It's just, I find doing it now will kind of get it out of the way. So this is where you would get your yarn needle, just kind of weave in back and forth and then snip off the excess. And then you've got a nice clean bottom. Now, my bottom here is measuring, again, it's just got a little bit of that ripple effect. It is measuring about 6.5 inches in diameter. So if we remember, our previous one measured just under 5. So we're increasing by 1.5 inches, and then I took my smaller one and I placed it on top, and you can kind of see that it'll probably nest snugly. If you want to, you can maybe do round number 9 if you just want them to be a little bit more loosely nestled. But I think I'm going to stop at number 8 for myself. Okay, so now we're going to proceed on to round number 9, and there'll be no more increases. And so what I did in this basket is I stopped after 6 rounds, and then I did 6 rounds of no increases, and that's what causes the sides to kind of start to curl up. But on round number 6, or during the 6th round, is when I created the handles. So I'm going to see how I feel about following that same formula. So I've got 8 rounds on the bottom of this size, which I'm calling the medium size. And then I'm going to do 8 rounds to build up my work. But I'm not going to do the handle on the 8th round because I want to see how I like it. Like I might want my basket to be a little deeper. So this is where you can kind of adjust this design for you. So we've come up to the end of our 8th round. I have a total of 48 stitches. So 6 times 8 rounds is 48 stitches. So we're going on to round number 9. And there's going to be no more increases. So it's just going to be 1 stitch into every single stitch. But I'm going to do something a little different. I didn't even do it on the other one. As we work this first round of our non-increase round, is instead of working into the full stitch, I'm actually going to work into the back loops only. And so that's the loop that's furthest away from you. So I'm just going to insert my hook in through the top instead of through the side. And I'm going to begin my round that way. I'm going to replace my marker here just so that I can stay in touch with where the beginning is. And this is all I'm going to do. I'm going to insert my hook into the back loops only. And I'm only going to do this for round number 9. And I'm going to do a few here just so you can get the effect here. And I like doing this in the first round of the non-increase rows or rounds because what happens is, see that? It pushes the front loops forward, and then when your basket sits, you can really see a defined edge from that separates the bottom with the sides. It's just like a little design detail. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for round number 9, 1 single crochet into the back loop of every single stitch. Now, when I come back around and I go into round number 10, I will return to going back into regular stitches. This is just to create the bottom edge, okay? So pretty straightforward. We're still working in the spiral round, so there will be no slip stitches. You just continue to work automatically into that next round. So I'm going to proceed to go ahead and do 8 more rounds. So in total, I will have 16 rounds once I meet back up with you, and then we can suss out if we're going to be ready to do our handle. Okay, so I have done 8 rounds and I'm actually pretty happy with it. So here is the smaller one, so you can definitely see that there is a difference. And I've already experimented, and you absolutely can nestle that one inside. So I like it. You can make a nice set here. So you'll notice here too that I have quarter marked my stitches. So I have 48 stitches still at the end of the 8th round of our non-increases, or round 16 if you're counting from the very beginning. And this is so I can determine where I would like my handles to go. And so originally I thought I would just start creating a handle here, but I think this time around, so this is my first stitch, I think this time around I'm going to do it on the opposite sides of my starting area. So I'm actually just going to take this one out. And this way, these are going to be the areas where I'm going to place my handles, and this is the start of my round. So this will now be round 17. And by the way, you can see here, remember we did the back loops only, so you can really see the ridge effect coming through there. So let's begin. We are going to continue as usual. We're going to single crochet, and we are going to stop about 2 stitches before this marker. So I'm just going to continue as usual with no increases. So I'm just going to take this out. Okay. And single crochet and replace that marker. It's just a really handy tool there. And now I'm just going to continue with my single crochets as usual until I get 2 stitches away from that next marker. Okay, so I have 2 stitches left before that marker, and this is where I want to create my handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to place single crochets, but only around the cording here. So I'm not going to go into these stitches. So I'm just going to slip under the cording, pull up the loop, and single crochet. And I'm going to do about 9 of these. And I'm just going to kind of push that, snuggle it in nice and close. So I have 2, and then I have 3, and then I have 4, there's the 5th one, 6, and then 7. And I just like to make sure that they're staying kind of nice and snug to each other. Here's number 8, and then number 9. And you can experiment with, you know, the handle size that you want to see or want to be able to use. These are like little mini baskets. If I was doing a larger basket, I would obviously make it a little larger. So I've got 9 stitches here. So what we're going to do is we're now going to find 2 stitches after the marker. So we have 1 and 2, and into the 3rd one is where I'm going to continue. Okay, so we're going to join back up with our basket. So there's the marker. I have 1, 2, and this is the one I'm going to insert into, just as I did before. And I'm going to trap that cord back in there again. And as you can see, we've created a handle. And this is the time when you can judge if it's a little too big or too small. That's actually not too bad. So in this smaller one, so here what's happening is we have skipped 5 stitches in total, and I've done 9 stitches across. In this one, the smaller one, I skipped 3 stitches, and I did 7 stitches in total. So this is just like a little mini, so you can fit your fingers through. This one's a little larger, I think I'm okay with that size. I do like that it loops up. So yeah, we're gonna go with that. And so now you can take this marker out because your handle's been formed. And so that way you know that this handle is nice and center. So there's 5 skipped stitches. So then we're going to continue to single crochet all the way around. We're going to do the same thing over here. Once we get to 2 stitches before the marker, we will then create our next handle, which is done the same way. You're going to stitch 9 single crochets over that cording, and then you're going to rejoin into that 6th stitch. So you're going to skip 5, join into the 6th stitch, and then you're going to just pick that back up and continue on to do your single crochets until you get to the end of the round there. Okay, so you're going to go here, create your handle, and then once we get closer to here, this is the end of our round. So that's why I wanted that marker to be there. And then I will talk you through one more round we're going to do to finish it all off and to kind of smooth out that jump gap that we'll have because we've been working in the round. Remember, we haven't been using any slip stitches. So I'll show you kind of how I got around that little issue. So go ahead and finish your second handle, and I will see you in just a little bit. Okay, so I have finished both my handles, and I just took out my marker where I'm beginning again. So there you have it. You've got those 2 handles there. I was just thinking this would make a really cute hanging basket as well. You know, a lot of times people make the one-handled baskets where you can hang on a hook or something and place all of your items. That would work really well too. So this is what it looks like from the side. And for some reason, this one is sitting a little higher. I think I squished these stitches a little closer together here, and that's the thing you have to watch. So let me just put that together. I mean, yeah, they look relatively the same. Okay, so all we need to do now is do a finishing round because we want to smooth out this little jog here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to continue doing these single crochets just until I get to the handle here. So I'm just going to work my way across. This is the final round. And I'm not going to worry too much about where that stitch marker was because I want to create a nice seamless join here. Okay, so I'm getting close to the handle. And what I want to do is I want to transition to slip stitches. So I just make a nice smooth line here. So I'm going to see if I can, let's try this. I'm going to go into the next stitch. I'm going to start as if I'm going to do a single crochet, but I'm not going to resolve that stitch. And then I'm going to go into the very next stitch, which is the beginning of our handle. And I'm just going to pull up a loop and then pull through all 3. And let's see if that gives me a little bit of a smooth transition here. Okay, so the idea is I want to just blend nicely into that handle. And this is where actually you can cut your cord. So let me just grab my scissors. Okay, and I'll just cut it right about there for now. I can trim it down later a little bit further. So let's get that out of the way. And so now we've got just stitches we're working into. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to work slip stitches all the way around the handle here. So I'm just going to insert, pull through, insert, pull through. So this is just a finishing round, plus it'll give the handles a little bit more sustenance. And like I said before, if you're doing a larger basket, this will really come in handy. And actually, if you were doing a super large basket, you might even want to do a second round of single crochets just to add a little bit of extra thickness to your handle. It all depends on the look that you're going for, right? So let me just finish this here. And then I'm transitioning back down here. So let's see how that looks. So that handle looks a lot sturdier, and we have a fairly smooth transition from the side up into the handle. So we want to try our best to make it as inconspicuous as possible. And that's pretty darn good, I think. And so now I'm just going to continue on doing the same thing all the way around. I'm going to continue to slip stitch. And this will just give the edging a little bit of extra girth here. And then I'm going to do that all the way around, and now it's easy. I just continue. I don't have to do that little stitch two together there because we're just already doing slip stitches. So I just slip stitch, continue on up and around, come back down, and then we're finally going to slip stitch to join our work at the end. And I'll come back around to show you that once I've finished my round here. Okay, so I have slip stitched all the way around, and I really love how that turned out. Very, very seamless. So I am about one stitch away from where we initially joined that slip stitch. So I'm actually going to snip my yarn, and I'm just going to pull this out. And this is where I'm going to grab my yarn needle, if I can find it. There it is. And I am going to weave this end. So this is where our slip stitches have finished. So I'm just going to go in through the front of the next stitch, just like that. And then back in this way, just to create that look of another stitch, and you can't even tell where it is. Look at that. Love that join. And then I'm just going to go and weave in my end just a few rows down, back and forth, etc., just to secure my yarn. And there you have it. Wow, I love how that turned out. You can't really tell where it starts and where it ends, except of course you see this. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do what I did in the center. I'm just going to snip it really closely to the edge here. Careful not to cut your yarn. Just like that, and then it gets hidden in there. Now, it's so wound around, it's not going to move. I know sometimes people are like, you should really put a knot there or something like that, but you know, it's so trapped in the round here that it is not going to shift. So I'm not really worried about that at all. So there we have it. I'm just going to finish weaving in this end, and then we will have the end result of our basket. I love this, and I love this color too. All right, so here are my baskets. Now I went ahead and did a third one in a much larger size. Look at that. So we've got a small, a medium, and a large. And this one's quite large, like this one in the tutorial. Look at how comfortably I can fit it in there. Whereas the small one nestles a bit more. So these would be more like nesting baskets. And you might even consider this maybe an extra large, but it's not really. Like when you go to some of the home goods stores, like usually they sit a little taller. It's just in relation to these. But anyway, just to give you guys some ideas. So I'll put the details down below, and I am working on the written pattern for this. So I know I've been falling a bit behind on getting all the patterns ready, but I promise you guys, I know you're going to want the pattern for this, so it will be ready shortly. Now, the small one, like I said, we used 6 rounds at the bottom and then 6 rounds to create the height. And then for this medium one that we just finished, we used 8 rounds on the bottom, and then we used 8 rounds before we began the handles. And so it looks just like that. And then for this larger one, what I did actually is I used 10 rounds on the bottom, but I also did something slightly different, which I probably mentioned a little earlier. Instead of using 6 single crochets at the start, I used 8. So this basket, we did increases in sets of 8. So whereas these, I always used 6 single crochets to create the initial round. So just a little something to keep in mind. And then I did 15 rounds to create my height, and then I created my handles there. So what do you guys think? Are these not such cute, sweet little items? Perfect for any home decor. You can use them for all kinds of things and not that difficult, right? Just once you get used to holding the cording or the rope in between the yarn, it should go pretty smoothly from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any detailed questions, please make sure to leave them in the comment box down below. But you can also, as usual, send me an email directly at info@crochetcrafty.com, and I'll be very happy to answer any of your questions. And don't forget, come visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com. There are already some written patterns on there for you guys. There's some free patterns, some patterns on my Etsy shop, and as always, some fabulous crochet tools to help you guys out when you're planning any of your projects. So that's it for me this week, guys. I hope you are enjoying a fantastic start to the month of September and getting ready for all kinds of cozy weather, fun crochet items that we have ahead for you. And if you're new here and you enjoyed this tutorial, I invite you to come hang out with me every Wednesday morning when I upload a brand new tutorial. So make sure to click that subscribe button and don't forget to press the notification bell, because that way you will get notified every time a new video goes live. All right, guys, I hope you have an amazing day. Happy crocheting. Take good care of yourselves always, and I'll see you guys in next week's session. Bye-bye.